The jungle goes quiet in a way that makes every man nervous. It's late morning in the Pacific, humid, airless, the kind of heat that soaks through canvas and skin alike. Somewhere ahead, a U.S. Army patrol has stalled along a narrow jungle trail. No explosions, no machine guns, just the sudden unmistakable crack of a rifle, and then a body hitting the dirt. No one saw where the shot came from. That's the worst part. Japanese snipers don't announce themselves. They don't rush. They wait, sometimes for hours, sometimes for days. And when they fire, it's never random. It's the radio man, the point man, the officer who stood up half a second too long. Another shot snaps through the trees. Bark explodes off a trunk inches from an American helmet. The patrol freezes. Men drop flat, faces pressed into wet leaves, hearts hammering. Every shadow looks like a rifle barrel. Every branch could be death. Someone whispers, "Sniper." That's when he crawls forward. No rank shouted, no dramatic gesture, just slow, deliberate movement, inch by inch, until he finds a shallow fold in the ground with a narrow view of the jungle ahead. In his hands is a rifle no one here was issued, no Parkerized military finish, no standard issue profile. It looks wrong. Civilian, almost delicate, a mail-order rifle. The kind you buy from a catalog back home. The kind the guys joked would get him killed. He settles in anyway. Breathing slows. Jungle noise returns. The insects, the birds, the distant chopping sound of artillery miles away. He doesn't scan wildly. He watches one patch of green no one else is paying attention to. A tangle of vines. A shadow that doesn't move like the rest. Minutes pass. Then a flicker. Not motion. Absence of motion. A leaf that doesn't sway. A line that's too straight to be natural. He tightens the sling, lets out half a breath. The rifle cracks. The sound is sharper than the others. As heard earlier, more controlled. And this time, there's no return fire. Just a thud somewhere high up, followed by the unmistakable crash of a body falling through branches. Silence. No one cheers, no one moves. They've learned better. An hour later, another shot, this time from a different direction. Again, he shifts, crawls, waits. Again, a single round. Again, silence. By nightfall, 2 Japanese snipers are dead. By the end of the next 4 days, there will be 11. Men who had pinned down entire platoons. Men who killed without ever being seen. Gone, one by one, because a single American soldier trusted his own skill more than doctrine, and brought a rifle the Army never wanted him to use. What no one in that jungle knows yet is this. The enemy is watching too, and they've realized something is very wrong. Because now the snipers are being hunted. Long before the jungle, before the humidity and the sniper fire, he was just another American kid who learned to shoot the hard way. Not on a parade ground, not under a drill sergeant's stopwatch, but in the quiet spaces, fields, tree lines, backstop berms, where a missed shot meant you went home empty-handed, where rifles weren't issued, they were earned, cleaned, tuned, understood. He grew up around firearms the way mechanics grow up around engines. You didn't talk about them much, you used them. You learned how wind pushed a bullet, how light changed a sight picture, how a good trigger broke like a glass rod, and a bad one ruined a shot before it ever left the barrel. These weren't theories. They were habits burned in over years. When the war came, he did what millions of others did. He enlisted. Basic training was efficient, loud, and standardized. The Army needed soldiers fast, and marksmanship was taught accordingly. Silhouettes at known distances, short time limits, strict procedures. He qualified easily, better than most. But he noticed something right away. This wasn't shooting the way he knew it. The issued rifle was rugged, reliable, and good enough for most men. But it wasn't his. The trigger felt heavy. The stock didn't quite fit. The sights were coarse, designed for speed more than precision. Doctrine emphasized volume of fire, not patience. Suppressive fire, not single, deliberate shots. He adapted, mostly. But somewhere between training and deployment, he made a decision that would quietly follow him into the war. He ordered a rifle, not exotic, not custom, just a civilian bolt-action, Accurate, familiar, and legal to own. Something he trusted. Something he knew how to shoot without thinking. When he arrived in the Pacific and the rifle came out of its case, the reactions were predictable. Jokes first, then warnings. Hope you didn't pay too much for that thin. The Army didn't issue it for a reason. Looks like something you'd shoot squirrels with. No one accused him of cowardice, just foolishness. Officers didn't like it either. Non-standard equipment meant complications, ammo supply, maintenance, accountability. But the rifle wasn't confiscated, not officially forbidden, just discouraged. So he kept it clean, kept it quiet, and waited, because he didn't bring that rifle to show off. He brought it because he knew something the manuals didn't say out loud. When the shooting gets real, when it becomes one man against another, hidden and patient, familiarity beats regulation every time. And in the jungle, that lesson was about to be paid for in blood. The U.S. Army of World War II believed in standardization for a reason. Uniform rifles meant uniform training. Uniform ammunition meant predictable logistics. In a war measured in millions of men and oceans of supply lines, individuality was a liability. Doctrine didn't care what felt right in a soldier's hands. It cared about what could be issued, replaced, and taught at scale. Sniping, especially, sat in an uncomfortable place. Officially, every infantryman was a rifleman. Unofficially, true sniper doctrine lagged behind reality, particularly early in the Pacific. Optics were scarce. Scoped rifles were limited and often viewed as specialist tools rather than necessities. Precision fire existed, but it wasn't prioritized. The enemy didn't share that view. Japanese snipers were trained to wait, to blend into trees, spider holes, and rotting foliage, to fire once and disappear, or not disappear at all, confident no one could find them. They targeted leaders, medics, radio men. They slowed entire battalions with a handful of well-placed shots. And against that threat, the Army's answer was usually more firepower, more men, more movement. Not one man with one rifle. So when the mail-order rifle appeared in camp, it became a quiet punchline. It didn't look like a soldier's weapon, no bayonet lug, no battle scars. The finish wasn't dull and utilitarian. It looked cared for, personal, the kind of rifle you zeroed carefully, not something you banged against a truck tailgate. Some of the ribbing was good-natured, some wasn't. That thing jams, you're dead. You gonna mail-order yourself a helmet, too? Snipers don't use hunting rifles. But beneath the jokes was a deeper discomfort, because the rifle represented something the system didn't like. Choice. It implied that the issue weapon might not be perfect, that one man's judgment could override regulation. Even the officers who noticed said little. As long as the rifle didn't interfere with operations, it stayed. But it was never encouraged, never praised, never backed by policy. And yet, when the first sniper rounds cracked through the jungle and men went flat in the mud, something changed. Because while others scanned frantically, trying to spot muzzle flash through layers of green, he wasn't thinking about doctrine. He wasn't thinking about what the Army preferred. He was thinking about sight picture, trigger pressure, natural point of aim. The first day never feels like a victory. It feels like tension that never drains, like a headache you can't shake. Even after the first Japanese sniper falls, no one relaxes. Men stay low, helmets stay tilted forward, rifles never leave hands. Because in the Pacific, one sniper is never alone for long. By midday, the patrol moves again, slow, deliberate, every step measured. The jungle presses in from all sides. Visibility is rarely more than 30 yards. Sometimes it's 10. Vines and creepers hang like curtains, breaking up shapes and swallowing sound. Sweat runs into eyes. Hands slip on wet wood and steel. That's where the enemy thrives. Japanese snipers don't hunt the way Americans expect. They don't chase. They become part of the terrain. Some are lashed into trees with rope, legs bound so they won't fall when killed. Others lie in spider holes barely wider than their shoulders, breathing through bamboo tubes, willing to wait days for one clean shot. And they're good. The second engagement comes without warning. A single crack, then the snap of a bullet through leaves. An American goes down, wounded but alive. The sound came from above. Most men fire instinctively, sending rounds into the canopy. It's loud, chaotic, and mostly useless. He doesn't fire. He watches. Tree trunks, branch intersections. The places a man could be, not where he wants him to be. He shifts his body by inches, ignoring the insects crawling across his neck. He waits for something unnatural, a shape that breaks symmetry, a shadow that doesn't match the light. Minutes stretch. Then he sees it, a boot sole, barely visible through leaves. Still, too still. One shot. The body falls almost straight down, thudding into mud 20 feet below. A sniper tied in, just as the manuals warned about but few had ever actually seen. By the end of the first day, 3 Japanese snipers are confirmed dead. The second day is worse. The enemy adapts. Shots come from multiple directions now. False positions, decoy helmets, rounds that snap past without revealing their origin. The Japanese are no longer just hunting Americans, they're hunting him. He knows it too. He changes positions constantly, never fires twice from the same spot. Sometimes waits hours without pulling the trigger at all. Thirst becomes a constant companion. Sleep comes in short, broken fragments, cheek pressed to stock, finger resting outside the trigger guard. The rifle performs exactly as he expects it to. No surprises, no stiff bolt, no wandering zero. When he fires, the bullet goes where his mind already placed it. By the third day, the tally climbs. 5, 7, 9. Each kill is quieter than the last. Less reaction, less disbelief. The men around him stop questioning and start protecting, bringing water, keeping noise down, watching flanks while he watches shadows. But the enemy is still there. Late on the 4th day, a shot misses him by inches, cracking into the dirt where his head had been moments before. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't return fire blindly. He rolls, crawls, and waits. The Japanese sniper makes a mistake. Not a big one, just impatience, a shift of weight, a fraction of movement where none should exist. One last shot. Silence follows. Real silence this time. Not the waiting kind, the kind that settles in and stays. 11 Japanese snipers in 4 days. Not from luck, not from superior equipment, but from patience, discipline, and a rifle everyone thought didn't belong there. When the patrol finally moves forward unopposed, the jungle feels different, lighter, less hostile. But no one celebrates, because every man there understands exactly how close they came to dying, and how easily it could have gone the other way. And somewhere out in the green, the enemy is already rethinking what they thought they knew about American riflemen. The jungle never stays quiet for long. By the 5th morning, it's clear the Japanese understand what's happening. This isn't random rifle fire anymore. This isn't an unlucky patrol stumbling into trouble. Someone on the American side is systematically dismantling their sniper screen, and that cannot be allowed to continue. So the tactics change. Shots now come paired, sometimes tripled. One round cracks from the left, drawing attention, while another snaps in from a different angle seconds later. Tree lines that once felt empty suddenly feel watched. Decoys appear, helmets on sticks, packs left half visible in clearings, bait meant to trigger a careless shot. They are hunting the hunter. For the first time, he feels the pressure in his chest tighten. Not fear exactly, but awareness. Because counter-sniper warfare is a chess match played with live ammunition, and every move reveals something about the man making it. He stops shooting for long stretches. Hours pass where he does nothing but observe. He ignores obvious targets that feel too obvious. He lets the enemy believe their traps are working. He shifts his position, not when it's smart, but when it's least expected. And still, it nearly ends. Late in the afternoon, a round punches through the foliage inches from his face. Too close, too accurate. Someone has figured out his pattern. For a moment, just a moment, the realization hits. They're good, too. He pulls back, deeper into cover, changing elevation, changing angle. The rifle stays cradled, never banging, never catching light. Sweat runs into his eyes. His mouth is dry. Fatigue creeps in, the dangerous kind that makes men rush. That's when the Japanese sniper makes his mistake. Not a dramatic one. No reckless charge. Just a small correction, a shift of position to reacquire what he thinks is a fleeing target. The movement is subtle, almost invisible. Almost. The male orsage. The rifle settles in as if it belongs there. No wasted motion, no hesitation. One shot. The return fire stops. After that, the jungle feels different again, but not relieved, cautious. Patrols report fewer shots. Enemy snipers begin pulling back rather than risk exposure. The unseen threat that had paralyzed movement starts to dissolve, replaced by something new, uncertainty on the Japanese side. They no longer assume American riflemen are predictable. And for the men on the ground, that change is everything. They move faster, lose fewer men, sleep a little easier. No orders come down, no doctrine is rewritten. Officially, nothing has changed. But on that stretch of jungle, a simple truth has been proven beyond argument. The moment the enemy realizes you don't play by their expectations, you've already won half the fight. When the shooting finally stops, it doesn't end with a victory cheer. It ends with men standing up slowly, almost unsure they're allowed to. Patrols move again along trails that had been frozen in place days earlier. Radiomen key their sets without immediately drawing fire. Officers lift their heads above cover. The jungle hasn't changed, but the invisible pressure that once crushed every movement is gone. 11 Japanese snipers are confirmed dead. That number never makes a headline. It isn't painted on a rifle stock or turned into a citation. It exists in after-action notes, quiet conversations, and the unspoken understanding among the men who were there that something decisive just happened. Dozens of lives were likely saved. Men who would have been picked off one by one. Medics, leaders, runners, are still breathing because one soldier refused to rush and refused to conform when conformity didn't make sense. The mail-order rifle is treated differently now. No more jokes, no more sideways looks. When it comes out for cleaning, men stop and watch. Someone asks about the trigger. Another asks how far it's zeroed. No one laughs. But officially, nothing changes. There's no commendation for the rifle, no doctrinal shift. The Army doesn't suddenly endorse civilian weapons or precision marksmanship outside its manuals. The war is too big, the machine too massive, to pivot around one man's success. And the soldier himself doesn't push for recognition. He didn't do this to prove a point. He did it because men were dying, and he knew how to stop it. Within days, the unit moves on. New terrain, new threats, new names written in the margins of maps. But for the men who were there, for the ones who lay face down in the mud while unseen rifles hunted them, the lesson sticks. Sometimes survival doesn't come from more men, more fire, or better orders. Sometimes it comes from one quiet professional who knows his craft and is willing to trust it when everything else fails. The war moves on the way wars always do, forward, indifferent, leaving small stories behind. The soldier survives. He finishes his tour, goes home. The mail-order rifle doesn't end up in a museum or behind glass with a placard explaining what it did. Most likely, it returns to a closet, a gun cabinet, or a workbench, cleaned one last time, then slowly overshadowed by civilian life. No parade waits for him. Like so many men of his generation, he doesn't talk much about what happened in the jungle. There are no stories that feel worth telling to people who weren't there. 11 snipers in 4 days becomes just another memory, filed away, unremarked, slowly fading as years pass. And yet the lesson remains. Wars aren't won only by grand strategy or perfectly standardized equipment. They're won by individuals who understand their tools, their environment, and themselves, and who are willing to act when the book doesn't have the answer. The Army never rewrote doctrine because of one mail-order rifle, but men on the ground learned something far more important. Skill matters. Patience matters. Familiarity saves lives. If this story feels small, it's because most real heroism is. And if it feels forgotten, that's exactly why it deserves to be remembered. If you have a family story like this, quiet, uncelebrated, but real, share it. Because history isn't just made by famous names. It's made by men who did the job and went home.